You think you're alone? You think that just because you've cried in silence, heaven didn't hear it? Let me tell you something that will set your spirit on fire. There are angels watching you right now because you are loved by God. And that love isn't just poetic. It's protective. It moves things in the invisible. It calls warriors to your side. If you knew the battles being fought in realms you can't see for you, you'd never doubt your worth again. This message today is not soft. It's not safe. It's not religious fluff. It's a wake-up call to every woman who's ever questioned her value. If you stay with me to the end of this talk, you won't walk out the same. You'll walk out aware that you're not just walking this world, you're backed by heaven. Because angels protect the woman God loves. And you, my sister, are that woman. When we say divine favor attracts divine protection, we're not talking about some abstract idea or spiritual cliche. We are talking about a truth that rearranges how a woman sees herself, how she walks, how she fights, how she rests. The woman God loves is not just appreciated from heaven, she is assigned. She is covered, she is shielded, and that covering is not soft or symbolic. It is strategic and supernatural. Imagine this. A woman wakes up in the morning feeling ordinary. She's brushing her teeth, scrolling through her phone, maybe checking the news, and she doesn't even realize that while she slept, angels were posted at the borders of her life. Not because she did everything right, not because she prayed for 3 hours, but because God loves her and that love has power. It has a response system. Divine love doesn't just sit in the background. It activates divine forces. See, we live in a world that tells women, if you don't look like this or act like that or achieve this status, you're not worth protecting. But God doesn't wait for a woman to become perfect before he assigns angels to her life. He protects her because she is his. Just like a king sends his soldiers to guard the most valuable parts of the kingdom, so does God send his angels to guard the ones he loves. And make no mistake, a woman walking in divine favor is the most dangerous thing to darkness. This is why some of you have survived what others didn't. You don't even fully understand how you made it out of that abusive relationship, that toxic job, that season of anxiety that nearly swallowed you whole. But you did. You're still here, and it's not luck. It's not your strength alone. It's because you are loved, and divine favor is not silent. It speaks through supernatural protection. Angels aren't just beautiful creatures floating in the sky with halos and wings. They're fierce, fiery warriors. When God assigns them to a woman's life, they are not showing up to decorate her destiny. They are showing up to defend it. There are battles you didn't even know happened because they were stopped before they started. There are people who plan to destroy you, manipulate you, lie about you, and it didn't work. Why? Because favor builds a wall they can't climb, a fire they can't cross. And here's what's even more powerful. God doesn't just protect the strong woman. He protects the called woman. He covers the woman who cries in private, who doubts her worth, who questions her future but still chooses to hold on. Favor is not a reward for the flawless. It's a sign of divine ownership. You are loved. And because you are loved, heaven has declared, touch not this woman. I've assigned angels to her name. Protection is not passive. It's not some invisible cushion that makes life easy and painless. It's a war strategy. Heaven does not babysit, it battles. When God places protection over a woman, he's not putting her in a glass box. He's placing her in a fortress. And that fortress is armed. You have to understand, when angels are assigned to a woman, they don't arrive in silence. They arrive with orders. They are not standing around in white robes. They are on duty, alert, and engaged. This is why so many women don't recognize how fiercely protected they are, because protection doesn't always feel like peace. Sometimes it feels like pressure. Sometimes it feels like isolation. Sometimes it feels like loss. But what you're calling rejection, what you're calling heartbreak, might be heaven's redirection. that relationship that ended, that door that slammed in your face, that opportunity you thought was yours, all of it might have been a fight in the invisible realm to protect you from what you couldn't see coming. Angels don't always show up with explanations. They show up with intervention. When God calls a woman, he prepares her. But preparation doesn't come with ease. It comes with resistance. That resistance is why the battle exists. Because the woman who walks with purpose carries influence. She threatens darkness just by waking up, and that threat activates opposition. So God does not leave her vulnerable. He surrounds her. Sometimes that surrounding shows up as favor, sometimes as delay, sometimes even as disruption. And if you're not spiritually awake, you'll misread divine protection as spiritual punishment. Think about a military operation. Soldiers don't protect empty land. They protect strategic ground. They guard territory that has value. So when angels surround a woman, it's not because she's fragile, it's because she's valuable. She might not see it. The world might not see it, but heaven sees it. God knows what's inside her. Her voice, her influence, her womb, her ideas, her intercession, everything about her carries potential to shift atmospheres. So what does heaven do? Heaven responds like a kingdom under attack. It places warriors around the treasure. This is why some of the hardest moments in your life weren't attacks to destroy you. They were evidence that God was shielding you. He allowed the storm, but he didn't let it break you. He let the fire come close, but it didn't consume you. Why? Because angels were deployed not to pamper you, but to protect your purpose. And the moment a woman understands that protection is a war strategy, she stops feeling sorry for herself and starts walking with authority. She doesn't ask, "Why me?" anymore. She declares, "I must be worth fighting for," because she is. And if heaven thinks she's worth protecting, then hell already knows she's a threat. So she lifts her head, squares her shoulders, and walks through life fully aware that angels don't guard what's weak, they guard what's worthy. The woman God loves is marked, not with ink, not with a visible crown, but with something so radiant in the spiritual realm that it cannot be ignored. This mark doesn't come from popularity, success, or the approval of others. It comes from being seen, chosen, and loved by God. It is invisible to the natural eye, but unmistakable in the realm of angels and demons. The woman God loves is recognized by heaven and by hell. And because of that mark, she is never unprotected, even when she feels unseen. You can tell when someone is marked. They walk through fire and don't burn. They go through betrayal and still love. They fall, but somehow they rise again, stronger, wiser, and more dangerous to darkness. This isn't because they're lucky or special in the world's eyes. It's because they carry an assignment that triggers protection. The mark on their life is not about status. It's about spiritual significance. The woman who carries God's love becomes a high-value target. And high-value targets are never left exposed. Some women feel like their past disqualifies them. They think the shame they carry or the trauma they've endured makes them less worthy of God's love and protection. But here's the truth. The mark isn't erased by mistakes. It's not wiped away by failure. In fact, sometimes the most marked women are the most broken ones because the enemy saw their potential early. The attacks weren't random. They were preemptive strikes. If you've been hit hard in life, maybe it's because you were marked from the beginning, and hell tried to stop you before you fully discovered who you are. Angels don't guard everyone the same way. They respond to assignments. And when a woman is marked by God's love, angels are deployed not just to accompany her, they are there to war for her destiny. That divine mark is like a signal in the spirit. This one carries purpose. This one belongs to heaven. This one cannot be touched without consequence. The mark calls heaven's forces into motion. It surrounds her even when she walks into dark places. It shields her when she's unaware. and it empowers her when she feels weak. But here's the most incredible part. She doesn't have to feel marked to be marked. You may not feel special. You may feel tired, unseen, worn out. That doesn't change the reality. God doesn't remove his love when we're low. He doesn't unmark us when we doubt ourselves. If anything, the mark shines brighter in the dark because God's power is made perfect in our weakness. So understand this. When you're marked by God, you don't walk through life casually. You walk with angels. You walk under covering, and every room you enter shifts. Because when you carry the mark of divine love, you carry weight, and heaven protects what it marks. Hell hates what heaven honors. That's not a metaphor. It's a spiritual law. When God places his hand on a woman, when he sets his love upon her, she becomes a target, not just of favor, but of fury. The moment a woman is chosen, called, and covered, she becomes dangerous. The enemy doesn't waste time attacking women who pose no threat. He zeroes in on the ones carrying light, the ones birthing purpose, the ones who just by existing push back darkness. The woman God loves doesn't walk through life unnoticed in the spirit. She is spotted. She is watched. She is resisted. But she is not unprotected. Because with every heavenly honor comes a heavenly defense. The intensity of the opposition is often a reflection of the magnitude of her mission. The attacks are evidence, not of failure, but of favor. And so often, women mistake the pressure for punishment, not realizing that the weight they feel is actually a war for their worth. The enemy knows something about you that you might not fully believe about yourself yet. You are anointed. You are not just surviving, you are carrying something eternal. And because of that, hell wants you silenced, distracted, isolated. The attacks aren't about what you've done. They're about what you could do if you ever fully believed who you are in God. That's why the warfare against the woman God loves often starts early. Childhood trauma, rejection, emotional abuse, anything to convince her that she's less than who heaven already knows she is. But here's the good news. What hell starts, heaven finishes. The woman God loves is never left to fight alone. When she's backed into a corner, when her heart is breaking, when everything she built seems to fall apart, there is a host of angels assigned to her. Not because she's perfect, not because she always has it together, but because she's his. Heaven defends its investments. And when God places honor on a woman, he surrounds her with fire. The enemy might come in like a flood, but God raises a standard. That standard is protection. This is why you must stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is in me that makes the enemy fight this hard? The storm around you is not just opposition, it's recognition. You've been identified as dangerous. That's why you've been hit. That's why doors slammed. That's why betrayal came from those you loved. But here you are still standing, because heaven's honor includes heaven's help. God doesn't just anoint and abandon. He anoints and arms. He surrounds the woman he loves with what she needs, even when she doesn't know she needs it. That's what makes her unstoppable. Not her strength, but her security. Not her perfection, but her protection. So when hell rages, remember, it's because heaven has already crowned you. And what heaven crowns, no demon can curse. Every woman has access to this love and protection. This isn't a privilege reserved for saints, for preachers, for the spotless or the spiritual elite. It's not locked behind a lifetime of religious performance. The love of God is not earned, it's received. And once received, it changes everything. It doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done, or how many times you've fallen. When a woman says yes to the love of God, she steps into a realm of protection that cannot be explained by logic, only by divine appointment. Heaven doesn't protect based on appearance, background, or status. Heaven protects based on identity. And identity begins with connection. When a woman connects with the love of God, she doesn't become perfect. she becomes protected. Angels don't wait until she's cleaned up and polished to be assigned to her life. They're dispatched the moment she says, yes, God, I'm yours. That yes is a signal, a spiritual declaration. It triggers a shift in the unseen. Because the woman who belongs to God doesn't walk alone. She walks surrounded. You don't need a stage to be covered. You don't need to have a title to have angels guarding your home, your children, your destiny. The single mother who whispers prayers in her kitchen, the teenager crying herself to sleep, the woman in rehab trying to put her life back together, each one of them, the moment they turn their heart toward God, walks into a divine covering that human words can't fully describe. Because God's love doesn't just reach it, rebuilds. It doesn't just embrace it, equips. And part of that equipping is supernatural protection. This is why the enemy works so hard to convince women that they're not good enough, not spiritual enough, not deserving. Because if he can keep you believing that heaven won't fight for you, he can keep you vulnerable. But the moment you realize that divine love is yours fully, freely, forever, you begin to walk with confidence. Not arrogance, but authority. You begin to pray not as a beggar, but as a daughter. You stop fearing the dark because you know who walks with you through it. Accessing this love isn't about religion, it's about relationship. It's about trusting that no matter what comes, you're held. You're guarded. You're seen. And when you believe that, you start to live different. You make decisions not from fear, but from faith. You stop looking for people to protect you, and you start recognizing that God already has. He's placed angels around you. He's spoken your name in heavenly places. He's written your story with purpose, and he's not going to let anything take you out before that story is fulfilled. So no matter your past, no matter your pain, if your heart is open to him, then heaven is open to you. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are loved. And because of that love, you are protected. Every woman has access. And every woman who receives it becomes dangerous to darkness and unstoppable in light. So hear me now. This is not just another message. This is your wake-up call. You are not walking through life as a victim of circumstance, tossed around by pain, fear, or uncertainty. You are loved by the Most High God, and because you are loved, you are protected. Not just casually, but violently. Not just occasionally, but constantly. Angels don't follow you because you're lucky. They are assigned to you because you are marked by God's love. Everything you've survived, that wasn't by chance. That was heaven stepping in. Every time you almost lost your mind but didn't, that was God's hand steadying you through the storm. The woman who knows she is loved by God becomes unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because she walks through it surrounded by power greater than anything coming against her. Now is the time to stand up in that truth. Stop shrinking. Stop doubting. Stop believing the lie that you are alone. You are not alone. Heaven fights for you. Heaven honors you.